Welcome to the debate. Imagine you are a junior copywriter at a major advertising agency. You spend your days writing variations of social media posts, learning the ropes, hoping one day to become a creative director.
Right. The classic agency grind.
Exactly. But then, overnight, a software update rolls out. And suddenly, an algorithm can generate 1,000 variations of your best work in like 3 seconds.
Wow. Yeah.
Are you about to be promoted to a strategist because you're freed from all that repetitive typing? Or are you about to be unemployed?
It is a terrifying and honestly exhilarating scenario depending entirely on where you sit in the corporate hierarchy. And the thing is, it isn't science fiction. It is the absolute reality of the labor market right now.
I mean, it is reshaping everything. Healthcare, global finance, coding, the creative arts.
Oh, entirely. It's touching every sector.
Yeah. But the central question we are tackling today is this. Does the massive increase in productivity driven by AI benefit all workers equally, or does it create a disproportionate divide in the workforce?
Which is such a vital question. Because we aren't just talking about, a new piece of software that makes typing faster. We're talking about fundamentally altering how human labor is valued and who actually gets to extract that value.
Precisely. And, well, my perspective on this is highly optimistic. I argue that AI is acting as a great universal equalizer.
An equalizer?
Yes, an equalizer. It breaks down historical gatekeeping, it democratizes highly specialized skills, and it really amplifies human potential for workers everywhere, particularly for individuals in emerging markets who, frankly, never had access to elite resources before. It elevates the baseline of what a single human being can achieve.
Well, I take a much more cautious view. I argue that while AI undeniably pushes the boundaries of aggregate productivity across the globe, its core function, which is the automation of routine tasks, disproportionately displaces very specific, vulnerable sectors of the workforce.
You think it targets them specifically?
In practice, yes. It risks concentrating the financial benefits among a small group of highly skilled workers and massive enterprises, all while completely hollowing out entry-level knowledge work.
Okay, let's get right into the mechanics of this, because the most striking theme I see in the source data is how AI takes non-experts and instantly gives them the capabilities of specialists.
Sure.
Historically, high-level productivity required massive teams, expensive university degrees, or, millions of dollars in corporate infrastructure. Today, AI shatters those barriers. Let's just look at data analytics.
Okay, let's look at it.
Platforms like Tableau or Google's Vertex AI are now allowing everyday non-technical business users to run incredibly complex data analyses using just plain English.
Right, you're talking about the transition to no-code interfaces.
Yes, but it's really important we understand how profound that is under the hood. A user types a simple question, something like, show me the sales trends by region for the last quarter. Underneath that, semantic parsing takes that human sentence and translates it into a highly complex database query. Then, a process called automated machine learning, or AutoML, kicks in.
Right.
Instead of needing a PhD data scientist to build a predictive model, AutoML basically tests thousands of different mathematical models in the background automatically, picks the best one, and generates predictions.
I mean, it hides the math behind a chat box.
Exactly. And Tableau's Ask Data feature alone is projected to handle 10 billion queries next year. That effectively puts the power of a dedicated, highly paid data science team into the hands of a single non-technical worker.
10 billion queries is a lot, yeah.
It's massive. And the global inclusion aspect is what makes this an equalizer. AI is actively closing the economic divide between the global north and south. We are seeing independent freelancers in the Philippines scaling their output tenfold on platforms like Upwork using generative tools.
But scaling output doesn't necessarily mean scaling wealth.
It means competing on a global stage. Look at developers at Nubank in Brazil. They are using GitHub Copilot to iterate financial apps 30% faster.
Oh, Copilot is huge, sure.
Yeah, and it uses something called retrieval augmented generation. It doesn't just guess how to write code. It searches a massive global repository of working code, retrieves the exact snippet you need, and synthesizes it into your project in real time.
Right.
That isn't just a minor efficiency boost. It is placing world-class engineering capabilities into the hands of individuals in emerging markets. It levels the playing field.
Look, the aggregate gains are absolutely undeniable. The recent PwC projections estimate AI will add $15.7 trillion to global GDP by the end of the decade. No one is debating the sheer volume of wealth being generated.
Right. 15.7 trillion is a staggering number.
It is. But the distribution of those gains is structurally, fundamentally uneven. You keep using the word augmentation. You say the worker is augmented.
Because they are.
But what we have to understand is that augmentation for a senior executive often means outright replacement for a junior worker.
Wait, let me stop you there. You see augmentation and replacement as mutually exclusive?
I see them as operating on completely different ends of the corporate ladder. Let's look at the Goldman Sachs estimates from the text. They project that automation will handle 300 million full-time equivalent jobs in the next few years.
Full-time equivalents, yes. Not necessarily people losing jobs completely.
Well, when we examine actual corporate deployments, the scale of routine job displacement is staggering. A recent Gartner report noted that AI is currently automating 70% of routine inquiries for Fortune 500 firms.
Which frees up the human agents to do more valuable work.
For a few of them, maybe. But let's look at the mechanisms here. Take HSBC. They are automating 80% of their trade finance processes.
Okay.
Trade finance used to mean armies of people manually checking stacks of paper bills of lading, letters of credit, shipping documents. Now they use robotic process automation infused with computer vision.
Which is brilliant technology.
It is. The AI essentially looks at a messy, crumpled piece of paper, understands the visual layout, and extracts the exact financial data needed. They are processing $1 trillion annually, 60% faster.
Which, again, is incredible efficiency.
Yes, but those armies of paper checkers are gone. Or look at Procter & Gamble. They are using AI to draft 70% of their digital ad copy using diffusion models and large language models.
Right.
A diffusion model basically starts with random visual, static-like, a broken TV screen, and mathematically denoises it step by step until it forms a photorealistic image of a shampoo bottle on a beach.
It's amazing to watch.
But when a machine can instantly generate the image and chain together the marketing copy, you no longer need that entire floor of junior copywriters and graphic designers. The technology enriches the top tier, the executives who own the systems, while the entry-level rungs of the knowledge economy are just sawed off.
I understand the theory, but in practice, let's look closer at what those entry-level rungs actually entail. We're talking about augmenting the knowledge worker by eliminating the routine worker's drudgery.
Drudgery?
Yes, AI handles the boilerplate, repetitive work. This isn't about destroying jobs, it's about freeing human workers to apply complex, strategic logic.
But drudgery is a highly subjective term.
It is, but look at how it plays out in reality. Unilever uses AI to screen 1.8 million job applicants. Before, human beings had to manually read 1.8 million resumes.
Right.
How does an AI do it? It turns the resume into math. It plots a candidate's skills as a point on a massive multidimensional graph and plots the job requirements as another point. Then it measures the physical distance between them. That's called a cosine similarity score. By doing that, they cut their time to hire by 50%. Or take Reliance Retail in India. They use AI agents to handle 10 million daily customer chats across 15,000 stores.
And what happens to the human customer service reps?
They aren't entirely eliminated. They are elevated. They are freed from answering, "Where is my package?" 1,000 times a day, so they can tackle complex customer retention issues. They become problem solvers instead of human answering machines.
I'm sorry, but I just don't buy that. Let me tell you why.
Okay.
What you are classifying as drudgery and boilerplate work is actually the foundational livelihood for millions of people. The data entry clerks reconciling accounts, the junior copywriters drafting social media posts, the Tier 1 call center workers in Manila.
Right, but those roles...
Those aren't temporary character-building stepping stones for everyone. For vast segments of the global population, that routine work is the destination. It pays the mortgage.
But the nature of work has always evolved.
Evolved, yes. But look at the speed and the mechanism here. When an AI chatbot uses transformer architectures, it doesn't just read a sentence word by word.
No, it uses the attention mechanism.
Exactly. It looks at the whole sentence at once to understand context. It figures out how every word relates to every other word and then autonomously generates a perfect response drawn from a company's internal database.
Right.
When that happens, it doesn't just free up the call center worker to do complex strategy. The company simply fires the call center worker and keeps the savings.
That's an interesting point, though I would frame it differently. Think of AI as the calculator for knowledge work.
The calculator?
Yes, the physical calculator. When the electronic calculator was invented, it didn't eliminate mathematicians. It eliminated manual, tedious arithmetic so they could focus on higher-level mathematical theory.
That's a bit of a leap.
Not really. The recent McKinsey data shows that AI boosts digital worker output by 40%. Their analysis suggests this hyperproductivity is effectively adding the equivalent of 300 million knowledge jobs worldwide. It's not a zero-sum game of destruction. The demand for output in the global economy is highly elastic.
Meaning what exactly for the average worker?
Meaning that if a marketer can generate campaigns 10 times faster using an AI, the company doesn't just fire 9 marketers. They launch 10 times as many campaigns.
Oh, I see.
They translate them into 50 languages. They explore new niche markets that were previously too expensive to target. The economic pie gets bigger for everyone.
But hold on. If we accept your premise that human time is freed up and the pie gets bigger, we have to follow the money. Who is actually capturing the financial value of this hyperproductivity?
Well, the individual workers and the small businesses do. The democratization of services in emerging economies is absolute proof of broad, equalizing benefits. Let's look at the small businesses leveling the playing field.
Okay.
There's a small cafe in Sao Paulo using Jasper AI to automate its content creation. They use clustering algorithms, which basically group customers based on their buying habits to segment their audience.
Right.
Suddenly, a local independent coffee shop can run targeted, hyper-personalized promotions that previously required hiring a massive marketing agency.
So a coffee shop using agency-level tools.
Exactly. Or look at the e-commerce startups in Nigeria. They are offering 24/7 fluent AI customer support to compete directly with Amazon. They are capturing the value. AI gives them the operational scale of a multinational corporation without the crushing overhead costs.
I come at it from a different way. I look at the underlying infrastructure required to make that São Paulo coffee's AI work. The democratization you're talking about is strictly surface level.
Surface level? How so?
The actual power, the intelligence itself, requires immense centralized infrastructure. We are talking about hyperscalers, which are data centers the size of small cities.
Well, yes, the compute power is centralized.
Very centralized. We are talking about quantized transformers, where engineers have to compress massive, power-hungry models just so they can run efficiently. The computing costs and energy demands are staggering.
True.
Because of this, the lion's share of that projected $13 trillion in business automation value primarily enriches massive corporate entities.
But the small businesses are still accessing those models to grow their revenues. They benefit too.
Accessing it, yes, but they are essentially paying rent to the tech giants to do so. They don't own the means of production. They are simply subscribing to it.
I mean, that's how cloud software has always worked.
But look at the industrial scale of it. Maersk saved $2 billion in delays during the Red Sea shipping disruptions. How? Their predictive models ingested millions of data points from sensors on their shipping containers.
Right.
Then they used Q-learning algorithms, which is a type of AI that runs millions of trial and error simulations at hyperspeed to find the best outcome, to preemptively reroute 20% of their global fleet.
Which keeps the global supply chain moving, lowering costs for everyone.
True, but it compounds the advantage of the giant. Amazon is fulfilling orders 25% faster worldwide using reinforcement learning for its warehouse robots. These giant corporations compound their advantages to a degree that makes true competition from a startup virtually impossible. And meanwhile, for the independent worker, like your freelancer in the Philippines, AI drops the barrier to entry so low that the labor market gets flooded.
You think it devalues their work?
Absolutely. If everyone can suddenly produce 10 times as much graphic design or code using an AI, the financial value of that specific digital labor crashes. You haven't empowered the freelancer, you've just commoditized their output.
It becomes a race to the bottom for wages.
You're touching on the friction of the labor transition, which is arguably the most vital part of this debate. If the value of current skills shifts, how do workers actually navigate this new landscape?
With extreme friction. The data notes that new roles like data labeling and AI orchestration are emerging faster than traditional jobs are being lost. But let's be entirely realistic about human capital here.
Okay, realistic how?
An assembly line worker whose job is automated by a vision-guided robotic arm, or, a displaced junior copywriter, cannot simply wake up tomorrow and become a machine learning orchestrator. The transition costs for the individual are brutal.
Transitions are always difficult, yes. I'm not denying that.
It's more than just difficult. It breaks the pipeline of expertise. There is a massive risk of skill atrophy.
Skill atrophy?
Yes. If junior workers aren't allowed to do the directory, how do they ever build the foundational knowledge required to become the senior strategists who oversee the AI?
That assumes the old way is the only way to learn.
If an AI is writing 90% of the code, the junior developer never learns how to spot the subtle, complex architectural flaws that lead to catastrophic system failures later on. The apprenticeship model of knowledge work is fundamentally broken.
I see why you think that, but let me give you a different perspective. You are looking at AI purely as a disruptor of the workforce. But AI is uniquely positioned to solve the exact transition problems it creates.
By teaching the workers it just displaced?
Exactly. Think about it. Historically, retraining a workforce was slow and incredibly expensive. But AI personalizes learning and training at a scale previously thought impossible.
Okay, but how does that look in practice?
Look at how Siemens is using AI across Europe. They don't just put employees in a generic classroom. They analyze employee performance data to personalize training paths.
Right.
The AI predicts exactly where skills will be needed in the company and recommends highly specific, bite-sized courses to the worker. By doing this, Siemens boosted skill uptake by 35%.
So the AI acts as a customized tutor.
A hyper-personalized one. Look at the education sector globally. Byju's and Khan Academy use adaptive algorithms to analyze a student's errors in real time. If a student misunderstands a concept, the AI instantly customizes the next module to address that specific learning gap.
That is impressive, I admit.
They are lifting test scores by 25% in under-resourced schools. The same underlying technology that automates a data entry task is the exact tool those workers will use to rapidly upskill. Natural language processing can decipher a worker's specific learning gaps, and predictive models can forecast their mastery curve. It means lifelong learning isn't just a corporate buzzword anymore. It is a highly targeted, highly efficient reality.
It is an elegant solution in theory, but it relies heavily on a corporate willingness to invest time and money in retraining, rather than just replacing the worker.
Companies need skilled workers to run these new systems. They have an incentive.
But they want workers who already have the skills. In the corporate world, they use things like survival models.
Survival models?
Yeah. Think of a survival model like the Cox Proportional Hazards Model as an insurance actuary table, but instead of predicting human lifespans, it predicts the lifespan of an employee's relevance.
Oh, wow.
It looks at the changing software tools and calculates this employee's skills will be entirely obsolete in 18 months. When a company sees that data, it is almost always cheaper for them to let that employee go and simply hire someone fresh who is already fluent in the new AI tools. The friction remains incredibly real for the person losing their paycheck.
The friction is real, I won't deny that. But I believe it is a temporary pain point in a much larger trajectory of progress. To summarize my position, I see AI as an unprecedented economic equalizer.
Right.
By taking the capabilities of entire corporate departments, complex data analysis, sophisticated software engineering, high-end graphic design, and placing them directly into the hands of individual workers globally, it elevates the absolute baseline of human potential.
It does shift the baseline, yes.
Yes, it fundamentally shifts what we consider valuable work. But by giving a startup in Nigeria or a student in rural India access to the exact same cognitive tools as a Fortune 500 company, it actively breaks down historical economic divides that have persisted for centuries.
And to summarize my stance, while AI undoubtedly pushes the boundaries of aggregate productivity and generates trillions in new global wealth,
Its core utility inherently targets and automates routine work. This means the labor transition will be highly disruptive, and that disruption will be felt most acutely by those who rely on routine work just to survive. I acknowledge the creation of new roles, and I see the incredible benefits of adaptive AI tutoring, but I maintain that the structural financial benefits of this technology skew heavily toward those who own the massive underlying infrastructure or who already possess the advanced strategic skills needed to orchestrate it.
Well, despite our different lenses on the economics, we both clearly agree that the scale of AI's impact is absolutely staggering. I mean, we are talking about a single foundational technology that is simultaneously optimizing agricultural yields in Kenya through satellite computer vision and executing microsecond high-frequency trades on Wall Street.
Absolutely, the breadth of application is incredible. And we also agree that how equitable this future becomes relies entirely on how we manage the peripheral challenges.
Right.
Managing issues like data privacy, the massive computing costs, and mitigating the skill atrophy we discussed, these aren't just technical footnotes. They are the structural guardrails that will ultimately dictate whether this technology serves the entire global workforce or just a privileged few.
Which brings us right back to where we started. We encourage you, the listener, to look closely at your own industry and your own daily tasks. Consider how these dual forces of automation and augmentation are shifting the intrinsic value of your specific skills.
Are you the scribe watching the printing press roll into town, or are you the author about to publish your first book?
It is a question we will all have to answer in the coming years. Thank you for joining us for this rigorous intellectual exchange. Until next time.